We sit down together, we try to improve the way we're working together and to do some change, and we find a way to have him at 32 years old running personal best and be competitive with the best in the world, even if you have a really good under 23 career, making the Olympics in 2016 as a kind of young athletes, missing 2021s, but then being back at the higher level and making world's team in 22 and 23 and running PR in 23. That's something I'm really proud of him, and the way it's easy to have success when everything is perfect, but being able to bounce back when you have tough year, that's a good skill set to have. I'm going to talk quickly about mindset and self-confidence. I think it's important that the athletes believe in himself. It's good if the coach believes in the athlete, but the most impact is the athlete believing on himself, and our goal is to transfer that confidence to the athlete, making sure when he's on the start line on an important race, he believes on himself. If you have some doubt, at some point you already lost the race. So building the confidence is a long process. All athletes are different, and can talk quickly about early. I like to target one or two topics and one or two areas per year where I try to improve myself as a coach. Over the last year, it was helping the athletes to be at their best at the big championship late in the season. Because when I analyzed our last few years, I noticed that most of the time the best athlete from my group ran very well outdoor early and mid-season, but not that great late on the season. So I worked hard over the last year, and I asked some people in my IST environment and some other coaches to help me to reflect about that, and I made some significant change that was part of the reason why Charles and Jean-Simon had a good season in last summer, and Jean-Simon ran his best race in August at World Championship, and Charles ran his best race early in September last year. It's because, yes, I changed some stuff in my training program, but I also changed the way I approach the vision of the season with them. So since early outdoor in April, in their mind, the focus was to be at their best in August, compared to I need to run fast early in the season to be ready in August. Because when you do that, you'll probably run fast April, May, June, then having a rough time late on the season. So that's an example of something I changed in my practice, but not only in my training plan, but the way I was involving the athlete in the process, and at some point the way I was programming the key session before racing. So the athletes know at Worlds that they were fit because physically they did well in the last key session, but also because mentally, since April, in their mind, that's what they were looking for, and or at least most of the data they can analyze about their training, about their racing, were pointing about that. The last key session, we just did exactly what we were looking for, and I was probably a bit more careful than usually to don't have them too much exhausted late on the season. So we probably start the big specific session just a bit later to making sure physically and emotionally when they were on the start line at Worlds or even on the last few races of the season in August and September, they were confident, physically and mentally ready, and they believe in themselves. Be ready to be competitive with the best, no complex. You can be physically, physiologically, mentally really fit, but if you're intimidated by your opponent because he's one of the best in the world, it's going to be tough to do the best result your body can do. And I have to admit that at some point Jean-Simon impressed me last year about that, because even myself, when I see him with those best steeplechase runner in the world, I would say, oh, it's going to be a big ask to have him making the final, but he know the plan, he was believing the plan since several months, and he just execute what he had to do, and it's a good skill set that he had, and probably some of the athletes with the same fitness would have not been able to deliver that, and the way he was able to trust himself was really impressive at that moment.
About what you were saying about, for example, like Charles and Jean-Simon with their season and being maybe like not as ready for big times in April, May, how would you manage that when the athlete is like flush to qualify for a team, whatever the level? I mean, for some it's like Jeux du Canada or like Quebec teams or whatever, you want them to, they're like, if they're super far ahead, then it's fine, but like if they're kind of flush and they really want to do it, how do you manage that? And also being actually fit for the event that they wanted to qualify for?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and at some point, we were able to do it last year because they were in a really good situation that we know that they were almost already qualified, and we analyzed the process. We said, okay, we don't need to run a lot of race early in the season. And the year before, the situation was completely different with Jean-Simon. The goal was to make the world's team for the first time. We had to race a lot because he was chasing world ranking, and he finally qualified by a few points and come to Worlds in 22 at Eugene, kind of exhausted and didn't race well. But when I look at the season, even if you always want to be at your best when it counts, the main goal was achieved. He was at Worlds, it was the first time, he ran well, but the next year, when we had our meeting, the focus changed. And okay, next World, we don't want to be there, we want to be competitive there. And of course, it's easier to do when you're lucky enough to be ahead of what it takes for the qualification process. I would say there's no perfect answer when you're really flush, but maybe based on the calendar, if we can plan to have 2 different peaks, even if I don't really like the thinking we can have about peaking, but let's say if you can run fast early, then having a small rest, then come back with another build-up. If the calendar is possible, that's a good way to do it. But yeah, it's more easier to do if you're far ahead of what it needs to qualify. Season planning. Avoid focusing too much about specific session early in the season if you want to be at your best late in the season. That's something I learned over the year. And again, it starts with the question about what is the main target of your outdoor season. For some athletes, it can be nationals. Let's say, first year as a senior, you don't really have some opportunity to make the national team. You don't want to extend the outdoor season too long to be ready for cross. So maybe you are at a point of your career where being at your best in May and June, that's fine, and you will adapt your planning based on that. And if you are at a point of your career where you want to be at your best at World Championship or at Olympics in July, August, September, you have to really plan and structure your year differently. And from my experience, being too specific too soon outdoor lead to good success until June, but it can be challenging after. And again, every athlete are different.
Yeah, we're on that slide, even the slides that you spoke to before, is that